UFC 305 takes place this weekend, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you my exact predictions for how I think every fight on the card is going to play out. So without further ado, let's get into the picks. As always, I like to look at my past week's performance to see what we can improve upon, and there's a lot to improve upon, guys. It's probably my worst picking Saturday in my entire YouTube career. We did get the first two fights right, which is funny because we only got 4 right. Stephanie Luciano was free, Zalal sub, completely predicted correctly, love to see that. And then Danny Barlow and Chris Gutierrez. You know, Gutierrez, Barlow, Zalal, the 3 biggest favorites on the card. Wow, Finz, you're a sharp for picking those guys. I want to kind of gloss over all the red X's. Carl Williams' decision, I think everybody had that picked. Let's be real. If Carl Williams does what he did in round 3, he's going to win the fight, but he doesn't because he's an idiot. So there's that. Pani Kianzad, underdog woman in a fight that's going to decision. I decided to take the shot. Bad take. Chelsea Chandler decision. Same logic. Bad pick. Charalampos Grigoriou. I will not say that this is a bad pick. He had Kazama knocked out. He was 1 strike away from Jason Herzog stepping in. Any other ref in modern day MMA will stop that fight in round 2 and make Grigoriou win by KO. But, you know, Grigoriou gets gassed, Kazama locks in the triangle, I lose all my money. That's how this game works. Chris Gutierrez's decision, that wasn't even free. Like, that was one of my right picks, and it wasn't even free. I was saying last week I wanted to pick Kang Lee just because I felt something. And then Kang Lee wins a round, and then just gives up at the end. So there's that. Let's see. Damian Jackson decision. I thought he could, employ the grappling. It turns out he has no gas tank. Maybe Turkey took something from him. He looked like his soul left his body against Chet Bay, I'm not going to lie. And then Marcin Tybura, the underdog in the main event. I have not been good at picking main events lately. We're going to try to turn things around with main event picking, but gosh, that was just awful. Like, what a bad card overall for picking and for viewing, honestly. And for those reasons, let's just get into 305. We have an audience at Perth. Picks should slap. Let's dive into them. First fight on the card, we have Stewart Nicoll taking on Jesus Aguilar. And for this breakdown video, I'm just going to try to give you everything you need to know in like a minute or less as to why I'm picking these people. So Stewart Nicoll, it's his UFC debut. He's fighting in Perth, and that's exactly where he's from. So he's going to have the crowd behind him. He is a very heavy wrestler, grappler type. He does have decent striking, but his striking is more to set up the takedowns. And Jesus Aguilar, he has, I think, 3 fights in the UFC thus far, not including his Dana White Contender Series. And he's looked like kind of mid. He's definitely never going to be a title contender, or he's not even going to sniff the top 15. I don't think this guy is that good at all. I think Stewart Nicoll is the perfect opponent for this type of matchup. Jesus Aguilar has a lot of guillotine submissions on his record. I think he has 4, and that might pose a threat to someone like Stewart Nicoll, who's going to be diving in on the single legs and the double legs. But if you're going to pick Jesus Aguilar, you must think he's going to win by the guillotine submission. That's his main method of victory, and he's done it in almost half of his wins. So Jesus Aguilar dives, trying to cinch up the guillotine. Stewart Nicoll doesn't allow it to happen, gets top control, gets the top pressure. I can see Stewart Nicoll finding a ground and pound finish. I can see Stewart Nicoll finding a rear naked choke. Jesus Aguilar was submitted by Tatsuro Taira in his UFC debut. So it's not like he's impenetrable to the submissions, but I think Stewart Nicoll, fighting in front of his home crowd, might be a lot of pressure to find the finish. And he might not actually get it. He might just, 3 rounds of laying and not finding the finish. 3 rounds of having the body triangle in and not getting the neck. Stuff like that. So I think that's how this fight would play out. And it's also flyweight, so you don't really see a lot of finishes at flyweight. And for those reasons, give me Stewart Nicoll in the first fight of the night. The favorite, we're changing it up. Last few weeks I've been picking the underdog in the first fight. But this week, we're taking Stewart Nicoll by decision. Let's go. Next fight in the card, we have Kenan Song taking on Ricky Glenn. I'm going to keep this short and simple. Ricky Glenn coming off back-to-back knockout losses after having never been knocked out in his career. Ricky Glenn is a lightweight who is moving up to welterweight. He is 35 years old, trying to turn his career around against a guy who is super heavy-handed in Kenan Song. Now, this matchup is pretty interesting to happen at 305, considering neither guy is from Perth. They're flying a guy from China and a guy from America out to Perth with no implications for the top 15. It's not like the winner of this is going to get a title contender back. Like, no. These guys aren't even close to the top 15. Kenan Song is coming off a loss, and he has 3 losses in his last 5. Ricky Glenn has 3 losses in his last 5, including a draw. So it's like, I'm not sure why this is on UFC 305, other than the UFC just wants to see an explosive knockout from Kenan Song. Now, that is a good reason. Kenan Song got a knockdown against Bedoya, even though he got doubled up on strikes in that fight. He won the decision because he was just landing the bigger shots. He got a knockdown on Ian Gary. Everybody knows about that. He did lose by KO to Max Griffin. That is giving me some trepidation. But he will have the reach advantage in this fight, unlike when he did against Max Griffin. He will be a similar size to Ricky Glenn. And Ricky Glenn's not really sparking anybody on the feet. You know, a knockout loss to Christos Giagos is like a really, really bad look. If Christos Giagos, who has, I don't know, let's say a core 80% of the power of Song, that's Christos Giagos. And he just landed a left hook and knocked him out with that one punch. So if Kenan Song lands that, you're going to see Ricky Glenn start to go to sleep. Drew Dober, left hook. That knocked him down. Like, you're going to see Ricky Glenn get knocked down in this fight. Now, whether, like, I'm getting flashbacks to, what's the guy's name? Erceggion versus Weston Wilson. This is what this fight reminds me of. Because we were picking Erceggion because Weston Wilson was that bad. Now Ricky Glenn is pretty bad, and we're picking Kenan Song because Ricky Glenn is that bad. That's getting me a little nervous, and he opened up as a minus 250, and he's now minus 170. So there's a couple red flags for Kenan Song, but looking at the tape, looking at the narrative of the UFC, Kenan Song is being flown out to Perth to knock out Ricky Glenn. That's the only thing I can think of. Ricky Glenn moving up a weight class. Maybe he's trying to, rejuvenate his chin. I'm not buying it. For those reasons, give me Kenan Song to get a KO in round 2. Next fight in the card, we have Tom Nolan taking on Alex Reyes, and there's not a lot to say here. Alex Reyes is coming off a tremendous layoff, 10 months. Prior to that, it was 7 years. So he fought 10 months ago, after 7 years off, gets knocked out by Charlie Campbell, of all people. Charlie Campbell is not super heavy-handed, and he's knocking this guy out. This is Dominic Reyes' brother. He's 37 years old, and the UFC is simply just giving Tom Nolan the worst people in the UFC. Like, Tom Nolan, after his first fight against Nicholas Monto, where he got completely starched, they were like, okay, wait, Tom Nolan, he's an interesting, entertaining fighter. Let's just give him people that he's going to knock out in round 1. So they did that. They gave him Victor Martinez 2 months ago, and he got knocked down in that fight. So Tom Nolan is insanely chinny 2 fights into the UFC. Very scary, yet he sits as a minus 1,400 favorite. I think Alex Reyes betting him is a bad play. He's plus 700. It's not going to happen. But Alex Reyes round 1 KO, plus 3,000. Alex Reyes has won by KO before. He's won by round 1 KO before. Tom Nolan has shown that, one punch to the chin could actually knock him out. So Alex Reyes round 1 KO being plus 3,000, not a bad bet. But the pick is going to be Tom Nolan. There's not going to be any bets on Tom Nolan, but the pick is Tom Nolan because he should just steamroll this guy in his home country with the crowd. He's minus 1,400. I might sprinkle Alex Reyes round 1 KO just because Tom Nolan's super chinny, but the pick is going to be Tom Nolan round 1 KO. Next fight on the card, we have Jack Jenkins taking on Herbert Burns, and Herbert Burns has a negative gas tank. Herbert Burns' game style is going to be to go out there, shoot for takedowns, try to get them. Once he fails at the takedowns, he gasses out. He stands there ready to be hit. He did land a really lucky knee from the clinch against Nate Landwehr, and he knocked him out. But if Nate Landwehr were to fight Herbert Burns again 10 more times, Nate Landwehr's winning 10 times. This guy is not that good, even though he's the brother of Gilbert Burns. His striking is negative. He just sells for takedowns, and he gasses out because he sells out for takedowns. Now, Jack Jenkins, he's no world beater. He actually is a coach, which I like a lot. His leg kicks are insane. He has multiple knockouts by leg kick. Well, TKOs by leg kicks, just because how powerful they are. And I feel like against a guy like Herbert Burns, who's, ready to quit at the drop of a dime, if he gets hit with a few of those hard leg kicks, he might just be like, all right, it's over. So Jack Jenkins being the minus 700, he's younger by 6 years. It's going to be in his home country of Perth. It's going to be with the live crowd. I think every shot that he lands on Burns is going to be like, wah! And ultimately, I think Jack Jenkins is going to find a way to get Herbert Burns out of there. Herbert Burns is going to gas. If Herbert Burns doesn't gas, if Herbert Burns somehow got a better cardio gas tank from 4 months ago, getting knocked out 4 months ago, by the way, that will be shocking. Jack Jenkins is pretty much a lock on this card. I don't really say that often, even though I do. And for those reasons, give me Jack Jenkins round 2 KO against a guy that just should not be in the UFC. Next fight in the card, we have Casey O'Neill taking on Luana Santos. Luana Santos just fought, I think, a couple months ago against Maria Agapova. She completely steamrolled her on the feet. We thought Luana Santos was going to be mid. Turns out she was pretty good against Agapova. Then you look at her previous fight against Stephanie Egger. We thought, Stephanie Egger has pretty good takedown defense to an extent. Maybe Luana Santos might not have that good grappling. And she showed against Stephanie Egger that she has the takedowns and she can control people for 15 minutes. Then against Juliana Miller, we're going backwards, by the way, but this is not chronological. But against Juliana Miller was just standing there ready to be hit. And Luana Santos showed in that fight that she can also stand and bang. So fight by fight, we're learning a little bit more about Luana Santos. And she's only 24 years old. We learned that she's willing to stand and bang. We learned that she's, willing to control people on the ground for a long extended period of time towards a decision. And we also learned that when she has a significant jiu-jitsu edge on someone, she's going to be able to finish them quite quickly, like she did against Maria Agapova with a rear naked choke in round 1. So, Luana Santos, amazing prospect, very good flyweight. I believe that if she wins this fight, she will get a ranked opponent next because she's just that good. Now, we go to Casey O'Neill. She hasn't fought in 7 months. She last got armbarred by Ariana Lipski in a fight where Lipski was getting the better of Casey O'Neill on the feet, which no one really expected heading into that fight. Casey O'Neill is known for, the good jab, the good cross, the good technical striking. Casey O'Neill is known for the takedowns. She, before her recent stretch, she would just take people down, get into dominant position, land some ground and pound until the referee jumped in. However, ever since the UFC has given her, people that have, a pulse, not that good. Ariana Lipski, armbar. Jennifer Maia, even though she landed 130 strikes, you shouldn't be losing to Jennifer Maia at this stage in Jennifer Maia's career and at this stage in Casey O'Neill's career. That was really her first test. She lost it. Roxanne Modafferi, she should have lost that decision. Antonina Shevchenko, negative takedown defense. And Lara Fritzen, who is Lara Fritzen? That's my question. So, Casey O'Neill doesn't really have any standout wins. Luana Santos, in my opinion, Stephanie Egger is a better win than any wins on Casey O'Neill's resume, to be honest. I think Luana Santos, if she wanted to, is going to clinch this against the cage. I think Luana Santos, if she wanted to, could get the takedowns. I think this is going to be a world of hurt for Casey O'Neill. I see a lot of people taking Casey O'Neill as the dog. I get it. It's Perth. Casey O'Neill's from Scotland. Those two things aren't the same. But Extreme Couture, that's where Casey fights out of. A 7-month layoff. Maybe she learned some tools there. She is 26. She's also super young, just like Luana. This is a battle of prospects. I love when these fights happen. I'm usually on the wrong side of them, but for this one, I think Luana is just a little bit better in every department of MMA. For those reasons, give me Luana Santos by decision. Next fight on the card, we have Josh Culibao taking on Ricardo Ramos, and this is the first fight where I am taking the underdog. Now, Tapology has 13% picking Ramos, which is crazy considering Ramos is only plus 125 underdog right now. So if this was Tapology betting, Ramos would be plus 300. But it's not. So Ricardo Ramos, he's going to have the grappling edge. He's going to have the wrestling edge. And I feel like overall, he's just a more ferocious, powerful striker. Culibao will have the technical striking edge. And it's very strange about Culibao. So he has power when he chooses to have power, but he needs to land a clean shot. You know what I'm saying? His leg kicking game is all right. His takedown defense is okay. He's shot for, I think, 11 takedowns offensively and hasn't landed one. So I'm not really worried about his takedowns. It's more about the guillotine because Ricardo Ramos, last 2 fights, he's lost by guillotine because he rocks his opponent and then he shoots for the takedown and his opponent gets the guillotine. So if Culibao has a good guillotine, he will win by submission. So Culibao sub plus like 1,000 right now. Kind of crazy number. Ricardo Ramos has negative fight IQ from what I've seen. So even though I am picking the underdog here, even though I think Ricardo Ramos should win with his takedowns, he got 8 takedowns against Bill Algeo. So it's not like he doesn't know how to win a decision. He clearly has an idea about how to fight, but it just seems like once the cage doors close, his game plan goes out the window lately. But he's lost back-to-back by guillotine, so you don't think that, like, he's a human. In his head, he's got to be like, yo, I got to change something up. So I think for those reasons, Ricardo Ramos on paper is better than Culibao. But when you watch the fights, he's not, because his IQ is bad. But you would think, as a human, Ramos would be like, this fight is very winnable if I just clinch Culibao against the cage, get my takedowns, get my hooks in, get the back, and just stay in the back for the whole round. Ramos can do that in this fight. I do not see Culibao having that path to victory. Culibao, he could potentially knock out Ramos. Ramos has been chinned. Culibao potentially could outpoint Ramos. That could happen. But Culibao showed in his last couple fights that, all you really got to do is take him down and clinch him against the cage. And Culibao is not going to have a lot of answers for that. I think Ricardo Ramos fits the bill for that what's the word I'm looking for? For that caricature? I don't know if that's the word. But Ricardo Ramos is the pick. He will not be a bet because I just can't trust this guy. And he's going to win by decision. Next fight on the card, we have Junior Tafa taking on Valter Walker, and this is very similar to Carl Williams versus Jonathan Deniz last week. Last week, I picked Carl Williams because I thought he would, employ the wrestling. It turns out he waited till round 3 to do that. I think Valter Walker will employ the wrestling. Junior Tafa has negative takedown defense. He is also 5-2 as a professional MMA artist. Mixed martial art artist. He's 5-2. And his wins in the UFC is Parker Porter. So Valter Walker, he was 11-0 before losing to Lucas Brzeski in a fight where he should have won. He got like 11 plus minutes of control time, but the judges at the Apex were like, oh, he didn't land enough strikes, or whatever the case may be. Valter Walker should be 12-0. He is a little chinny when, because his striking is pretty ass. I'm not going to lie. Junior Tafa, if this stays standing, Junior Tafa will knock out Valter Walker. I'm 100% confident in that. However, I think, Junior Tafa lost to Muhammad Usman, and Muhammad Usman was able to control this guy and take him down. If Usman's doing that, Walker should have no problem. Walker's looking pretty beefy on his Instagram posts lately. Valter Walker has now flipped to the underdog, and for those reasons, give me the guy with the wrestling edge. Give me the guy who's going to win more minutes. Give me the guy that hasn't been cleanly knocked out from striking yet. That's his only way he's going to lose here. He has all the upside for submission, knockout, and decision. Junior has to just land something to win. So for all those reasons, give me the guy with 100,000 times more upside to win because he has way more paths to victory, Valter Walker, and he's also the Finz hammer lock. You heard it here first. You'll see Friday. But Valter Walker by decision is the pick. Next fight on the card, we have Jing Liang Li, or should I say Li Jing Liang, taking on Carlos Prates. Now, Carlos Prates, he is basically losing fights until he's not. He's getting outpointed, he's getting outgrappled, outwrestled, and then eventually he just finds the kill shot, and he's been able to do that for a very long stretch of fights. And against Charles Radke, he was winning that fight against Radke until he knocked out Radke too. So he's evolving fight by fight as well. He's 31 years old. He's about to enter his fighting prime. Li Jing Liang is 36, about to turn 37, coming off spine surgery. He's out of his prime. We've seen Li Jing Liang. Actually, I don't think we've ever seen the Leech knocked out. So this is an interesting fight for that reason. This might be the first time we see Li Jing Liang knocked out. How can Leech win this? Well, Prates has been chinned way in the past, but he has been chinned. Prates has a bunch of fights in Muay Thai, so, he could have a lot of wear and tear on his body at this point to make the Leech land a big shot. The Leech could potentially go in for some grappling, but I feel like if the Leech activates takedowns, that's going to activate Prates' sneaky BJJ, considering he is with the fighting nerds. He might even get like some kind of ninja choke against the fence, you know, something like that. So I think round 1 is going to be tit for tat, very close. You know, Prates is going to make his reads. Prates is going to land that cross in round 2. And unfortunately, I think we're going to see the Leech get knocked out. So for those reasons, he's also the huge favorite. Minus 230 here on Tabology. But he's like minus 400 on FanDuel. So Carlos Prates is a pretty safe pick. Give me him by a round 2 KO. Thank you very much. Next fight in the card, we have Jairzinho Biggie Boy Rosenstrike taking on Tai Tuivasa. Now, there's a lot of things going for Tai in this matchup. Number 1, Jairzinho is not going to shoot for takedowns. It's going to be a standing affair. So that's going to play right into Tai Tuivasa's style. You know, whenever Tai Tuivasa has fought someone that is standing there to trade with him, he actually does pretty well. But if you look at his last few fights, the knockout from Sergey Pavlovich is concerning. Getting knocked out by Cyril Gane is concerning. Those two guys are people that are going to stand there and trade. Now, is Rosenstrike on the same level as Pavlovich and Gane? He might be just under them, and he might be just above Tai, I think. Jairzinho has a kickboxing background. He fights off his jab. He throws the kicks. If it's a firefight, whenever I've seen Jairzinho in a firefight, he doesn't really do that good. So if Tai can force the firefight, if he can just, like, in the first 2 minutes of this fight, make it just balls to the wall, all in, Tai Tuivasa has a very good chance to win this by knockout round 1. Jairzinho is not a world beater. That's the word. Yes, he's not a world beater. Jairzinho, I think, is going to win this by decision. Plus 800 on FanDuel. Jairzinho Rosenstrike by decision. That's an absurd number, considering he just went 4 rounds with Shamil Gaziev, who we thought was going to mollywop Jairzinho. Even though I picked Jairzinho in that fight as my hammerlock, we thought Shamil was going to run through him, but then the fight lasted 4 rounds. So if Tai Tuivasa doesn't get the finish in the first 2 minutes, or Rosenstrike could also get in the first 2 minutes because Tai's been finished a lot lately, this fight is going to go to decision very easily, in my opinion. Once they get gassed out in the first 2 minutes, they blew their wads, Jairzinho is going to start pumping the jab, pumping the leg kicks. Tai can't find the range. He has a 3-inch reach disadvantage in this fight. And for those reasons, I think Rosenstrike can just outpoint Tai to a decision victory. I think if Rosenstrike allows ego to get in his way, he will lose by knockout. And the way he's been chirping on Twitter makes me think he actually might let his ego get in the way. So I don't have any bets on Rosenstrike on this fight other than his decision prop. And for those reasons, give me Jairzinho Rosenstrike by decision. Next fight in the card, we have Matthias Gamrot taking on Dan Hooker. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm going to go ahead and say this fight is not going to decision. Okay? Dan Hooker, he can easily knock out Gamrot in this fight. Gamrot has been knocked down in 3 of his past 4 fights. 3 of his past 4 fights. Including RDA, who's about to be 40 years old. Including Jalen Turner, who he should have lost that decision. Including Beneil Dariush. So Matthias Gamrot is going to sell out for takedowns. He's going to go all in. He has good technical striking, but he's not knocking anyone out in the feet unless he lands like some kind of crazy knee or some kind of crazy leg kick. Not going to happen on the feet for Gamrot. Gamrot is going to try to take down Hooker. Hooker is going to try to knock out Gamrot. And I think ultimately Hooker's career trajectory is kind of going down. All right. So he lost to Islam by Kimura. We're like, that's just whatever. Then he gets knocked down round 1 by Arnold Allen. We're like, Then he fights Claudio Puelles in just like a free fight. And then he fights Jalen Turner. That was a year and a month ago. That's crazy. That head kick was a year and a month ago. Wow. I just think that Gamrot should be fighting for the title, yet they're giving him someone that is like not even really top 10 worthy in the division. He should be levels above Hooker. The last time Hooker fought someone that was a very heavy wrestler was Islam, and he got submitted in round 1 with Kimura. Now, if you look back at Gamrot's record, you will see that he has a few submission wins, and he has a Kimura specifically against Jeremy Stevens in the exact same setup that Islam got on Hooker. So for those reasons, I think Gamrot has a very good chance to get the same finish Islam did I don't think Hooker's BJJ is that good. It's just never been tested that much. You know, Claudio Puelles surely tested it, but Claudio Puelles also sucks at MMA. All right? You can't mix it up. He's only a BJJ guy. He sucks. He also destroyed Hooker's leg in that fight. So, for all those reasons, Hooker's lack of being tested on the ground, Hooker's career, stock kind of going like that, GAMROT going up, GAMROT should be really fighting for the belt. It should be a GAMROT win. But I can just so see GAMROT fumbling the bag here. You know? He's like, they keep giving him fights that aren't title fights. Like he beats Fiziev. He should have got a title fight. But then they give him RDA, ranks down. Now they give him Dan Hooker, who's even further down. It's like he's going to lose one of these bad fights. But I don't think it's going to be this one. Give me GAMROT, and I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to say he finds the finish with a Kimura submission in round 2. That brings us to the co-main event of the evening. We have Kai Kara France taking on Steve Erceg. And if there was a lock on this card, it would be for this fight to go to decision at minus 230. I don't think either guy is getting finished here. If anyone's finding the finish, it'll be Steve Erceg on Kai Kara France. I think Steve Erceg just beats Kai Kara France everywhere. You know, he has a better technical striking, he has better boxing, he has better jiu-jitsu, he has better takedowns. He should be the champ, honestly. If it wasn't for round 5 against Pantoja, it was 2-2 heading into round 5. And then he decides to go for a takedown against, Pantoja's only way to really win, which was on the ground. So that was a fumble by Steve Erceg. He should be the champ, guys. And Kai Kara France should have beaten Amir Albazi. So he should be the number 1 contender. So that in theory, this is like a pseudo title fight because Erceg should be the champ. Kara France should be number 1 contender. But I think, Erceg's stock is rising. Kai Kara France has already, fought Brandon Moreno and lost. Kai Kara France has already fought a bunch of the who's who of the flyweight division. And, not really the best. He's also 2 years older. It is going to be in Perth. So I think the crowd will be rooting for both guys. More for Steve Erceg, I would guess. They're both Australian, New Zealand, in the Oceanic region. So I'm not really sure how this fight's going to play out. I think it's going to be a tit-for-tat game. I think Erceg is going to get the takedowns in grappling. I think he will utilize those to an extent. And I think Erceg, he's going to land more damage, right? Like, Kai Kara France against Brandon Moreno, if you watch that fight back, he was doing pretty well up until he got knocked out in round 3 with a body kick. So it's not like Kara France is terrible, but I think he's just like so prone to the big shot landing on him that it's hard to pick him in this fight, especially when the odds are so close. On the screen it says he's plus 190, but really he's plus 120. I think the pick has to be Steve Erceg, considering he should be the champ. He basically beat the champ. And Kai Kara France has 11 losses on his record. Like, and he has a couple finish losses too, so he's not the most durable flyweight either. So lack of durability, older fighter who's, he's already on his way out of the title picture. So I think Steve Erceg is going to win. Give me him to win by a grappling, clinchy, out-voluming decision. And that brings us to the main event of UFC 305. We have Israel Adesanya trying to defend the honor of Nigeria against the South African Jenkins du Plessis, that racist son of a bitch. That fuck. Okay, sorry. Oh, man. I'm taking Adesanya by decision. I see a lot of people taking Dricus because they're like, oh, Dricus is the stronger guy. Dricus is younger. This is Dricus' time. He's going to utilize the grappling, which, no one has ever been successful against Adesanya doing. Dricus is going to utilize the forward pressure and flurry. He's going to keep Adesanya guessing with the forward. Okay, so Costa tried that. It didn't really work when Paulo Costa tried the forward pressure thing. Oh, he's going to keep Izzy on the back foot, and he's going to catch him with something. Well, if Izzy's on the back foot, I think he could just points fight all day with leg kicks and jabs. So, not really seeing Dricus winning other than a finish, and really Izzy is not getting finished. His 2 losses are... Oh, God. Oh, God, he is getting finished. I forgot about this one. Okay, well, Jenkins is not Alex Pereira. He doesn't have Alex Pereira power. And he also immediately reversed that fight with a win against Alex Pereira months later. He lost by Strickland by decision. He lost to Blachowicz by decision. Adesanya is not getting finished. He is 35. So people are like, oh my God, Adesanya's 35. He's out of his prime. But I think the Strickland fight was just a bad night in the office, guys. People are looking at that one and saying that's the reason Drickus is going to win. I think it was just a bad night in the office. I think if Drickus tries to pressure Izzy the same way that Pereira tried, the same way that Strickland tried, I think Adesanya is actually going to just finish Drickus. I think Adesanya can actually find the KO in this fight. I think it's more likely for a decision, though. But actually, I'm going to change my pick on the fly. Actually, I'm not. I'm just going to leave it as it is. I think Izzy can find the KO, but if you watch any Izzy fight ever, Izzy's winning. All of these fights, even the fight he lost to Pereira, he was winning. The only fight that he clearly lost was against Sean Strickland, and I'm just chalking that up to a bad night in the office. So, for all those reasons, Drickus just fights way too crazily for me to back him. He is the sitting champion. You shouldn't really fade the champion as the underdog. It is a dead split, 50-50 on Tapology. That's crazy. I think Izzy is just going to be able to outpoint Drickus. I don't think it's Drickus' time like everyone's saying. The reasons people picking Drickus is because he's more powerful, more dangerous. He has a lot of finishes. Well, I think Izzy is going to remind you guys. I'm the biggest Izzy hater on the planet. I picked Strickland. I picked Izzy against Strickland. I was wrong. I picked Pereira against Izzy when Izzy knocked him out, so I was wrong. I picked Izzy against Pereira the first time. I was wrong. I'm not good at picking Adesanya fights lately. But this one, I think this is going to be a, you must have forgot fight. So give me Israel Adesanya to regain his belt by decision. I can definitely see a KO happening. And if it happens, I'm going to predict round 4. So those are the picks. Israel Adesanya by decision. I'll give you a quick peek behind the curtain with where my bets are currently sitting at. I have 3 units on Adesanya. I have 3 units on Steve Erceg. I have 3 collective units now on VALTER Walker. I think he's going to, win that from domination on the ground. Luana Santos, I threw a 1.5 unit to win a quick unit. Just to have some action on that women's fight where I think Luana will definitely win. And I threw 3 units on Kenan Song in a fight where I think he's just going to starch Ricky Glenn. I also have a Jack Jenkins parlay with Kenan Song. I have a Jack Jenkins parlay with Stewart Nicoll. My apologies. And I threw 0.2 units on Rosenstrike by decision because those odds are just insanely juicy. Plus 750. And with my read on the fight being Jairzinho's going to, jab on the back foot, should be free. Thank you for getting to the end of another episode of Finz Chats. I hope you enjoy this one. Make sure you enjoy these pitch stains I've been showing you all video. Let me know in the comments who your favorite underdog is this weekend. And without further ado, let me like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Have a great one. Savage.